The transport ship landed on the golden platform of the Zorani Imperial Palace. Daniel Cole stood near the exit door and looked through the small window. The palace was huge. Towers of white stone reached toward the purple sky. Gardens stretched in every direction, filled with flowers he had never seen before. He was just a mechanic from Colorado. 6 months ago, he was fixing trucks in a small garage. Now he was about to meet an alien queen who would become his wife. The door opened. Bright light flooded inside. Daniel picked up his single bag and walked down the ramp. A group of Zorani officials waited for him. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with silver skin and violet eyes. Their faces showed no warmth. They looked at him like someone might look at a stray dog that wandered into their house. "You are the human?" one of them asked. His voice was cold. "Daniel Cole," he said. "I am here for the treaty marriage." The official looked at a device in his hand. "We expected someone of importance. A general, a scientist, perhaps a political leader." He looked at Daniel with clear disappointment. "Earth sent us a mechanic." Daniel said nothing. He had learned long ago that silence was sometimes the best answer. They led him through the palace. Servants stopped to stare. Some whispered to each other. Daniel caught a few words in their language. Pet, primitive, mistake. He kept walking. The throne room was massive. Pillars of crystal rose to a ceiling painted with stars. At the far end, on a throne of black stone, sat Queen Valeth. She was beautiful in a way that was hard to describe. Her silver skin seemed to glow softly. Her violet eyes were sharp and intelligent. A crown of thin metal threads sat on her head, woven with small gems that caught the light. But her expression was ice. Daniel walked forward and stopped at the proper distance. He had studied Zorani customs for weeks. He bowed his head in the traditional greeting. "Queen Valeth," he said, "I am honored to meet you." She did not stand. She did not smile. She simply looked at him like he was a problem she had to solve. "So this is what Earth sends me," she said. Her voice echoed in the great hall. "A common laborer. A man who fixes machines with his hands." "Yes, Your Majesty," Daniel said calmly. A tall Zorani male standing near the throne laughed. This was High Commander Rethus. Daniel had read about him. He was the Queen's military advisor. A powerful man who hated humans. "This is an insult," Rethus said loudly. "The humans mock us. They send their garbage and call it a gift." Several members of the court laughed. Daniel felt their eyes on him. He kept his face blank. Inside, he was watching everything. The positions of the guards, the exits, the way Rethus stood too close to the Queen, the way some officials looked uncomfortable with the commander's words. "The treaty requires a marriage," Queen Valeth said. "It does not require me to pretend this is anything more than political necessity." She waved her hand. "Take him to his quarters, somewhere out of the way." Guards led Daniel through long hallways. They walked for several minutes, going deeper into a less decorated part of the palace. Finally, they stopped at a small room. "Your quarters," a guard said. He did not hide his smile. "Fit for a human." The door closed. Daniel looked around. The room was simple. A bed, a table, a window that looked out at a back garden. It was far from the royal wing. Far from anything important. He put his bag on the bed and sat down. A soft knock came at the door. Daniel opened it to find a human woman in diplomatic clothing. She had brown hair and tired eyes. "Ambassador Lyra Vance," she said quietly. "May I come in?" Daniel stepped aside. She entered and closed the door. "You look different without the uniform," she said. "That is the idea." Lyra walked to the window and looked out. "The court already hates you. Rethus is telling everyone that humans are primitive animals. He wants this alliance to fail." "I know." She turned to face him. "Earth Command believes there are threats against the Queen. Assassination plots. Maybe from within the palace itself. That is why they sent you." She paused. "Are you sure about this? You could reveal yourself. Demand proper treatment." Daniel shook his head. "If I reveal what I am, I become a target, and I lose the ability to move freely. Right now, everyone thinks I am nothing. That is useful. They think you are a fool. Good, Lyra sighed. The awakened program is still classified. If something happens to you here, Earth cannot officially help. You understand that? I understood it when I accepted the mission. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Be careful, Daniel. The Zorani are proud. And Rethus is dangerous. He has been building power for years. Some say he wants the throne for himself. After she left, Daniel stood at the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. In the garden below, he could see a fountain that was not working. Water dripped from a crack in its base. He watched it for a while. Then, he went outside. The garden was empty. Daniel knelt beside the fountain and studied the damage. A simple crack in the pipe, easy to fix. He found tools in a nearby shed and began working. He did not notice the figure watching from the balcony above. Queen Valeth stood in the shadows, looking down at her new husband. He was on his knees in the dirt, fixing a broken fountain. A royal consort. Doing servant work. She should have felt disgust. She should have felt anger at this insult from Earth. Instead, she felt something else. Something small and unexpected. Curiosity. No one had told him to fix the fountain. No one would thank him for it. Yet there he was, working quietly in the fading light. She watched until he finished. The fountain came back to life, water rising in a gentle arc. Daniel stood, wiped his hands on his pants, and walked back inside without looking for praise. Valeth remained on the balcony for a long time after he was gone. Perhaps there was more to this human than she first thought. Or perhaps she was simply tired and seeing things that were not there. She turned and went back to her duties. But the image stayed with her. The quiet human, alone in the garden, fixing something broken simply because it needed to be fixed. It was such a small thing. And yet, she could not forget it. 3 weeks passed. Daniel Cole became a ghost in the palace. He woke early each morning. He walked the halls. He fixed things that were broken. A door that would not close. A light that flickered. A chair with a loose leg. No one asked him to do these things. No one thanked him when he did. The servants began to ignore him. The nobles pretended he did not exist. High Commander Rethus continued to make jokes about the Queen's human pet. The court laughed every time. Daniel listened. He watched. He learned. He spent hours in the palace library, studying the Zorani language. The librarian, an old female named Saris, was surprised to see him there. "You can read our words?" she asked one day. "I am learning," Daniel said. She studied him with her violet eyes. Unlike the others, she did not look at him with hate. Just curiosity. "Most humans do not bother," she said. "They think their language is enough for everyone." "I am in your world now," Daniel replied. "It would be rude not to learn." The old librarian smiled slightly. It was the first smile anyone had given him since he arrived. One evening, a message came to Daniel's room. A formal invitation. The Queen was hosting a diplomatic banquet for representatives from 5 allied species. As her consort, Daniel was required to attend. He put on his best clothes. They were simple compared to Zorani fashion, but clean and neat. The banquet hall was filled with color and noise. Aliens of many species sat at long tables. There were the tall Zorani, the short and furry Kellocs, the blue-skinned Vathri, and others Daniel did not recognize. A servant led him to his seat. It was at the far end of the table, as far from the Queen as possible. This was a deliberate insult, arranged to show everyone his low status. Daniel sat without complaint. Queen Valeth entered the hall and everyone stood. She wore a gown of deep purple that matched her eyes. She was stunning. Every eye in the room followed her as she walked to her seat at the head of the table. For just a moment, her gaze passed over Daniel. Then she looked away. The banquet began. Food was served. Conversations filled the air. Daniel ate quietly and watched. He watched the servants move between tables. He watched the guests laugh and argue. He watched the guards standing at every door, and he watched one servant in particular. The servant was Zorani, young and nervous. He moved through the crowd, carrying a tray of drinks. Nothing unusual about that. But Daniel noticed things others did not. The servant's hands were shaking slightly. Not the shake of someone tired from work. The shake of someone afraid. His eyes kept moving to the queen. Quick glances, too many glances, and there was something else. A small bulge in his sleeve. Something hidden. Daniel's heart began to beat faster. He kept eating. He kept his face calm. But his eyes never left the servant. The servant approached the queen's end of the table. He poured drinks for several nobles. Then, he reached the queen. He set a glass before her. His hand trembled. Daniel stood up. "Excuse me," he said to the noble beside him. "I need some air." He walked toward the queen's end of the table. His path took him directly past her seat. As he walked, he pretended to stumble. His arm swept out. The glass in front of the queen flew off the table and shattered on the floor. The hall went silent. Everyone turned to look. "Forgive me," Daniel said loudly. "How clumsy of me." Rethus laughed from across the table. "The human cannot even walk properly. Truly, Earth has sent us their finest." The room erupted in laughter. Servants rushed to clean the mess. Another drink was brought for the queen, but Daniel saw the young servant's face. The fear was gone, replaced by frustration. His plan had failed. The servant slipped away into the crowd. Daniel watched him go but did not follow. Not yet. He returned to his seat. The banquet continued. No one suspected anything. Later that night, Daniel returned to his quarters. He had just removed his coat when someone knocked. He opened the door. Queen Valeth stood there, alone, without guards. "May I enter?" she asked. Daniel stepped aside. She walked in and looked around the small room. "This is where they put you," she said. It was not a question. "It is enough." She turned to face him. Her violet eyes were sharp. "Tonight at the banquet, when you spilled my drink." "That was not an accident." Daniel said nothing. "I watched your eyes," she continued. "You were watching the servant, the one who poured my glass. You saw something. I saw a clumsy servant." "You are lying." Silence stretched between them. "Why would a human mechanic watch servants so carefully?" she asked. "Why would he notice a trembling hand across a crowded room? Why would he move so quickly, so precisely, to knock over exactly one glass?" Daniel remained still. "Perhaps I was thirsty and wanted your drink for myself." For a moment, he thought she might smile. But her face remained serious. "You are not what you pretend to be," she said. "I do not know what you are. But you are not a simple mechanic. With respect, Your Majesty, I am exactly what Earth said I am." She studied him for a long moment. Then she walked to the door. "Keep your secrets, human, for now." She paused with her hand on the door. "But know that I am watching you." She left. Daniel let out a breath. He walked to his window and looked out at the night sky. His cover was still intact, but the queen was suspicious. That could be useful, or it could be dangerous. In another part of the palace, High Commander Rethus sat in a dark room. A shadowy figure stood before him. "The poison failed," the figure said. The human interfered. Rethus slammed his fist on the table. "A human. A worthless, primitive human. He may be more than he appears. He is nothing." Rethus stood and walked to the window. "The war with the Keth is coming. When our forces are stretched thin, I will make my move. The queen will fall, and I will take what should have been mine. And the human?" Rethus smiled coldly. "The human will die first. Arrange an accident. Something that will teach Earth their place in the galaxy." The figure bowed and disappeared into the shadows. Rethus looked out at the stars. Soon, very soon, everything would change. The weak queen would be gone, the pathetic human would be dead, and the Zorani Empire would have a true leader. He laughed softly to himself and began to plan. The invitation arrived at Daniel's room early in the morning. It was written on fine paper with gold edges. Very formal. Very polite. The royal guard was hosting a combat demonstration. As the Queen's consort, Daniel was invited to participate. He read the words carefully. Participate. Not watch. Participate. Daniel knew what this was. Rethus wanted to humiliate him in front of the entire court. The Zorani were stronger and faster than humans. A fight between them would be short and painful. He should refuse. A smart man would refuse. Daniel sent his reply. He would attend. The training grounds were located behind the palace. A large open area surrounded by stone seats. By midday, the seats were full. Nobles, servants, and soldiers all came to watch the human make a fool of himself. Queen Valeth sat in a special box above the arena. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes followed Daniel. As he walked onto the sand, Rethus stood at the center of the arena. He smiled when he saw Daniel. "The human has come," he announced loudly. "How brave, how foolish." The crowd laughed. "Today our guest will have the honor of sparring with 3 of our finest warriors." Rethus gestured to 3 Zorani soldiers who stepped forward. They were huge, each one carrying a training staff. "Do not worry, human. They will try not to break too many of your bones." More laughter. Daniel walked to the center of the arena. A servant offered him a staff. He took it, felt its weight, then set it aside. "I will not need that," he said. The crowd went quiet. Rethus raised an eyebrow. "You wish to fight unarmed against 3 warriors?" "Yes," Rethus laughed. "As you wish. Begin." The first warrior charged. He was fast, his staff swinging toward Daniel's head with enough force to crack a skull. Daniel stepped to the side. The staff missed by inches. He did not counterattack. The second warrior came from behind. Daniel ducked under the swing and rolled away. The third warrior attacked from the left. Daniel blocked with his forearm and slid past him. For 2 minutes, Daniel did nothing but dodge. He moved like water, flowing around every attack. The warriors grew frustrated. Their swings became wilder, more desperate. The crowd watched in confused silence. This was not what they expected. The human should be on the ground by now. Instead, he danced between 3 trained killers without taking a single hit. Then Daniel stopped running. The first warrior attacked again. This time, Daniel caught his wrist, twisted, and pressed 2 fingers into a point below the elbow. The warrior's arm went limp. His staff fell to the ground. Before anyone could react, Daniel spun and struck the second warrior in the neck. Not a punch. Just 2 fingers pressing a specific spot. The warrior's legs gave out, and he collapsed. The third warrior backed away, eyes wide with fear. Daniel walked toward him calmly. The warrior swung his staff in panic. Daniel caught it, pulled it from his hands, and touched a point on his chest. The warrior fell beside his friends. 3 warriors, 3 seconds. None of them could move. The arena was silent. Daniel bowed to the queen and walked out of the arena without saying a word. Valeth sat frozen in her seat. She had never seen anything like that. The moves were precise and surgical. No wasted energy. No unnecessary force, just knowledge of exactly where to strike to shut down a body. This was not luck. This was not the fighting style of a mechanic. This was the work of a trained killer. Rethus stared at the fallen warriors with barely hidden rage. His plan had failed. Instead of humiliation, the human had shown strength. This complicated everything. That night, Daniel lay in his bed. He knew his performance had been a mistake. He had shown too much. But he could not let himself be beaten senseless, just to maintain his cover. He closed his eyes and listened to the silence of the palace. Something was wrong. The silence was too complete. No footsteps of guards walking past. No distant sounds of servants. Nothing. Daniel opened his eyes. 6 figures stood in his room. They wore black suits that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were hidden behind masks. In their hands, they held curved blades. Keth assassins, the most feared killers in the galaxy. Daniel rolled off the bed as the first blade sliced through his pillow. He grabbed a chair and threw it at the nearest assassin. The creature dodged easily. They were fast. Faster than the Zorani warriors. Daniel backed against the wall. 6 against 1. No weapons. No armor. No room to run. The assassins spread out, surrounding him. They moved in perfect coordination, like a pack of wolves closing on their prey. Daniel took a deep breath. Then he let go. Deep inside him, something woke up. Something that had been sleeping since Mars. Since the day he touched the ancient machine and felt it reach into his mind. Energy flowed through his body. His senses sharpened. Time seemed to slow. The first assassin attacked. Daniel saw the blade coming before it moved. He stepped inside the swing, caught the assassin's arm, and snapped it with a single motion. His hand shot out and struck the creature's throat. It fell. The second assassin died before it could scream. Daniel moved too fast for the eye to follow. One moment he was by the wall. The next moment he was behind the creature. Its own blade buried in its back. The remaining 4 attacked together. Daniel spun between them like a storm. He saw their movements before they made them. He felt their intentions in the air. His hands and feet struck vital points with perfect accuracy. In 12 seconds, 6 elite assassins lay dead on his floor. Daniel stood among the bodies, breathing hard. His eyes glowed with pale blue light. Power surged through him. Wanting more. Wanting to be unleashed, he forced it down. Slowly, the glow faded from his eyes. The door burst open. Guards rushed in with weapons raised. They stopped when they saw the scene. Daniel stood calmly in the center of the room, surrounded by dead Keth assassins. Behind the guards, Queen Valeth appeared. She pushed through them and stared at Daniel with wide eyes. "Everyone out," she commanded. "Now." The guards hesitated. "Now," she repeated, her voice like ice. They left. The door closed. Valeth and Daniel were alone with the dead. "What are you?" she whispered. Daniel looked at her. The adrenaline was fading. His hands were starting to shake. "I am awakened," he said. "One of a small number of humans who can use psionic abilities, enhanced reflexes, limited precognition, the ability to sense danger before it happens, psionic abilities." She stepped closer, studying him like he was some strange new creature. "Humans have such powers?" Some of us. Very few. Earth discovered ancient alien technology on Mars 5 years ago. Those who touched it and survived were changed. And Earth sent you here. Not as an insult. As protection. Yes, we received intelligence about threats against you. Someone inside your palace wants you dead. Valeth looked at the dead assassins. "Keth assassins." "But how did they get inside the palace? How did they know which room was yours?" "They had help," Daniel said. "From someone with access. Someone powerful." Their eyes met. They were both thinking the same name. "Rethus." "I cannot accuse my high commander without proof," Valeth said quietly. "He has too many allies. Too much support among the military. Then we wait. We watch. And when he makes his next move, we will be ready." Valeth nodded slowly. She looked at Daniel differently now. Not as an unwanted burden. Not as a curiosity. But as an ally. "You endured weeks of mockery and insult," she said. "You let them call you weak and stupid. All to protect me. The mission was more important than my pride." She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and touched his hand. Just briefly. Just a brush of silver fingers against his skin. "Thank you," she said softly. Then she turned and walked out to deal with the aftermath, leaving Daniel alone with the bodies and the echo of her touch. The palace was in chaos after the assassination attempt. Guards searched every room, servants were questioned, security was doubled at every entrance. But Daniel knew it would not matter. The real threat was not outside the walls, it was inside them. The next evening, Queen Valeth summoned Daniel to her private chambers. 2 guards stood at the door, but she ordered them to remain outside. The room was beautiful. High ceilings painted with images of ancient Zorani heroes. Soft lights that glowed like captured stars. Furniture made from rare woods and precious metals. Valeth stood by a large window, looking out at the night sky. She did not turn when Daniel entered. "Close the door," she said. He did. "I have been queen for 12 years, she said quietly. "In that time, I have learned to read people. To see past their masks. To understand what they want before they speak it." She finally turned to face him. "But you are a puzzle I cannot solve. What would you like to know?" "Everything." Daniel walked to a chair and sat down. He was tired. The fight with the assassins had drained him more than he wanted to admit. "It started 5 years ago," he began. "A human exploration team found ruins on Mars. Ancient structures built by a species that died millions of years ago. Inside the ruins, they found machines. Strange devices that we could not understand." Valeth listened, without interrupting. "I was part of the military team sent to guard the scientists. One night, I touched one of the machines. I did not mean to. It was an accident." He looked at his hands. The machine activated. "It reached into my mind and changed something inside me." "Changed how?" "I started seeing things before they happened. Just flashes at first. A few seconds into the future. Then the physical changes came. Faster reflexes. Greater strength. The ability to sense living things around me. Psionic powers," Valeth said. "That is what the scientists called it. They found others like me. People who survived contact with the machines. We became the awakened. Earth kept us secret. Trained us. Used us for missions that required special abilities." Valeth sat down across from him. "So you are a soldier. A weapon." "I was. Now I am whatever Earth needs me to be." He met her eyes. "When our intelligence learned about threats against your life, they sent their best operative disguised as their worst offering. A mechanic that no one would suspect. No one would watch. No one would fear. No one would fear. Until now." "Until now." She was quiet for a long moment. Daniel could see the questions moving behind her eyes. The doubts. The calculations. "Why did you endure it?" she asked finally. "The insults. The mockery. Rethus calling you an animal in front of my entire court. Why not reveal yourself sooner?" "Because the moment I revealed what I am, I become a target. Every enemy of Earth would want me dead. Every ally would want to study me. I would lose the one advantage I had." He paused. "And because the mission mattered more than my comfort, your life mattered more than my pride." Valeth studied him. "You are strange, Daniel Cole. On my world, power is everything. Those who have it display it. Those who hide it are considered weak or afraid. On my world, true strength is not about showing off. It is about knowing when to act and when to wait. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, even when they do not know they need protection." Before she could respond, alarms began to ring throughout the palace. The door burst open. A guard rushed in, his face pale with fear. "Your Majesty, the Keth Dominion has attacked. A full fleet has struck our border colony on Varath 4. Thousands of civilians are in danger." Valeth rose immediately. "Gather the War Council. I want all commanders in the war room immediately." Daniel followed her through the corridors. The palace had become a hive of activity. Soldiers ran past. Officers shouted orders. The calm elegance of the Zorani court had been replaced by the urgency of war. The war room was a massive circular chamber filled with holographic displays. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy floated in the center. On it, Daniel could see the red marks of Keth ships surrounding a small blue planet. High Commander Rethus was already there. His face showed concern, but Daniel could see something else beneath it. Satisfaction. Even excitement. "The situation is critical, Your Majesty," Rethus said. "The Keth have deployed 30 warships around Varath 4. Our nearest fleet is 6 hours away. By the time they arrive, The colony will be destroyed. Can we not send faster ships? Valeth asked. Our fast attack ships cannot match 30 warships. They would be destroyed. Rethus shook his head with fake sadness. I recommend we accept the loss of Varath 4 and focus on defending our core systems. There are 50,000 civilians on that colony, Valeth said sharply. Women. Children. You want me to abandon them? I want you to make the strategic choice. Sometimes, sacrifices are necessary. Daniel watched Rethus carefully. The commander was too calm, too prepared, almost as if he had known this attack was coming. There may be another way, Daniel said. Every eye in the room turned to him. Rethus frowned with displeasure. The human speaks in matters of war now? Rethus asked coldly. Let him speak, Valeth commanded. Daniel walked to the holographic display. The Keth fleet is controlled from their command ship here. He pointed to the largest vessel in the formation. Standard. Keth doctrine. If the command ship falls, the other ships lose coordination. They become confused and retreat. We know this, Rethus said impatiently. But we cannot destroy the command ship without a full fleet. We do not need to destroy it. We need to disable it. Daniel looked at Valeth. A small strike team could board the command ship using a stealth shuttle. Once inside, we eliminate the command staff and destroy their communication systems. Without leadership, the fleet will scatter. A boarding action? Rethus laughed. Against a fully crewed Keth warship? It would be suicide. Not for me. The room went quiet. Your Majesty, Rethus said quickly, you cannot seriously consider this. Sending the human on a military mission? He is not even a soldier. Actually, Valeth said slowly, it seems he is exactly that. She looked at Daniel. What would you need? A fast shuttle, stealth capabilities, and a small team of your best warriors, 5 or 6 who are willing to follow a human into battle. Rethus stepped forward. I forbid it. This is madness. The human will get our soldiers killed. You forbid nothing, Commander. Valeth's voice was ice. I am the Queen. I make the decisions here. She turned to her guards. Find volunteers for the mission. Tell them the truth. They will be fighting alongside the human consort against a Keth warship. The danger is extreme. Only those who truly wish to go should come. Rethus's face turned dark with anger, but he said nothing. Valeth walked to Daniel. She stood close, her violet eyes locked with his. Come back alive, she said quietly. That is a royal command. I will do my best, Your Majesty. Valeth, she said. When we are alone, you may call me Valeth. For the first time since he arrived, Daniel smiled. It was small, but real. I will come back, Valeth. I promise. She watched him walk away to prepare for battle. In her chest, she felt something she had not felt in years. Fear. Not for her empire. Not for her throne. For him. The stealth shuttle cut through the darkness of space like a knife. Inside, Daniel sat with 6 Zorani warriors. They were volunteers. Soldiers who had agreed to follow a human into certain danger. Their leader was a female named Kira. She had silver scars across her face from years of combat. When Daniel first met her, she had looked at him with suspicion. Now, after he explained the plan, she looked at him with something closer to respect. 30 seconds to the command ship, the pilot announced. Daniel closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. He could feel the Keth ship ahead. Hundreds of life signs moving inside it. Weapons, systems powering up. Guards at every corridor. I sense heavy resistance near the bridge, he said. We will need to fight through 3 security checkpoints. Kira nodded. My team will clear the path. You focus on the command center. The shuttle attached to the hull of the Keth ship with a soft thump. Daniel used a plasma cutter to slice through the metal. The team dropped inside. The corridors were dark and wet. The Keth preferred low light and high humidity. Perfect conditions for the lizard-like creatures. They moved quickly. Daniel led the way, his senses reaching out ahead to detect enemies before they appeared. 4 guards around the next corner. he whispered. Too high. Too low. Kira signaled her team. They moved in perfect formation, weapons ready. The fight was short and brutal. The Zorani warriors were skilled, but the Keth fought with savage fury. One Zorani fell with a blade in his chest. Another took a wound to the leg. Daniel did not have time to mourn. He pressed forward, his body moving faster than thought. Every Keth that came at him died before they could strike. His fists and feet hit nerve points and weak spots with deadly precision. They reached the first checkpoint. A heavy door blocked their path. Daniel pressed his hands against the metal and pushed with his mind. The door groaned. Metal bent. Then, with a terrible screech, it tore from its hinges. Kira stared at him with wide eyes. "What are you?" "Awakened," Daniel said simply. "Keep moving." The second checkpoint was worse. 20 Keth soldiers waited behind barricades. Energy weapons filled the corridor with deadly light. "We cannot pass this," Kira said. "We will be cut down." Daniel stepped forward. "Stay behind me." He raised his hands. Power surged through him. Blue energy crackling around his fingers. The air itself seemed to bend. When the Keth fired, their shots hit an invisible wall. Daniel held the barrier with pure will, his teeth clenched from the effort. Step by step, he advanced. The Keth screamed in confusion. Their weapons did nothing. This human walked through their fire like it was rain. Daniel reached the barricade. He dropped the shield and released all the energy he had absorbed. A wave of pure force exploded outward. Keth soldiers flew through the air. Walls cracked. Lights shattered. When the dust cleared, the checkpoint was silent. Kira and her team followed Daniel through the destruction. Their fear of him had been replaced by something else. Awe. They had never seen anything like this. "The bridge is ahead," Daniel said. His voice was strained. The power was burning through him faster than he could control. "We need to end this quickly." They burst through the final door. The bridge of the Keth command ship spread before them. Dozens of crew members worked at stations around a central platform, and on that platform stood the Keth commander. He was massive, over 8 feet tall. His body had been enhanced with cybernetic implants, metal fused with flesh, wires running beneath his scales. His eyes glowed red with artificial light. "The human awakened," the commander said. His voice was deep and mechanical. "We were warned about you. That is why I am here." He raised his arm. A cannon built into his flesh fired a burst of energy. Daniel barely dodged. The shot hit a console behind him, causing an explosion that threw 2 Zorani warriors to the ground. "My implants were designed to counter psionic abilities," the commander continued. "You cannot read my mind. You cannot see my attacks coming. Against me, you are just a weak human." He charged. The fight was unlike anything Daniel had experienced. The commander was strong, fast, and completely immune to his precognition. Every punch was a surprise. Every kick came from nowhere. Daniel was thrown across the bridge. He hit a wall hard enough to crack it. Blood filled his mouth. The commander stood over him. "Your kind thinks you are special, that your powers make you gods among lesser species." He raised his foot to crush Daniel's skull. "You are nothing." Daniel looked up at him. Blood ran down his face. His body screamed with pain, but deep inside him, the power stirred. Not the careful, controlled energy he had used before. Something deeper. Something primal. Something that had been waiting to be released. "You are wrong," Daniel said quietly. "I am not special because of my powers." He grabbed the commander's foot before it could fall. Blue light exploded from his hands. "I am special because I do not give up." Energy poured out of Daniel like a river breaking through a dam. It flowed into the commander, overloading his cybernetic systems. The machine parts in his body sparked and burned. He screamed as circuits melted and metal twisted. Daniel stood. Power radiated from him in waves. The air itself seemed to vibrate. His eyes were no longer human. They were twin stars, burning with pale blue fire. He placed both hands on the commander's chest and unleashed everything. The commander exploded. Not just his body. The floor beneath him. The ceiling above. A sphere of pure destruction that vaporized everything it touched. The bridge fell silent. The Keth crew stared in terror at the human who stood where their commander had been. Then they ran. Kira approached Daniel slowly. He was still glowing, still burning with power. His body swayed like he might fall. "The communication systems," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Kira's team moved quickly. They smashed consoles and cut cables. Within minutes, the command ship went dark. Outside, the Keth fleet began to fall apart. Without orders from their commander, the ships lost coordination. They turned on each other. They fled into empty space. The colony was saved. Daniel collapsed. He woke in a bed of soft white sheets. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. He recognized the ceiling. The Royal Medical Wing. "You have been unconscious for 3 days." He turned his head. Queen Valeth sat in a chair beside his bed. She looked tired, like she had not slept much. "The colony?" he asked. "Safe. Your attack scattered the Keth fleet. Our reinforcements arrived and drove them away." She paused. 50,000 people are alive because of you." Daniel tried to sit up. Pain shot through his body. He fell back against the pillows. "Rest," Valeth said. "Your body needs time to heal." "Rethus?" "Arrested. After you left, we found evidence of his conspiracy. Messages to the Keth. Plans to use the war as cover for his coup." Her violet eyes were hard. "He will face justice." Daniel closed his eyes. It was over. The mission was complete. "Earth will be sending a transport," Valeth said quietly. "Now that your mission is done, you can go home. Back to your world. Your people." Daniel opened his eyes and looked at her. "Is that what you want?" She did not answer immediately. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair. For the first time since he had known her, she looked uncertain. "What I want does not matter. You came here for a mission. The mission is over." The mission was to protect the Alliance. Daniel reached out and took her hand. Her silver fingers were cold against his skin. "You are the Alliance. As long as you need protecting, I am staying." Valeth stared at their joined hands. In Zorani culture, such a gesture was deeply intimate, reserved for those who had bonded their lives together. "You would stay?" she whispered. "After everything? After the insults and the mockery? After nearly dying for a world that is not your own?" For you," Daniel said simply. "Yes." Slowly, her fingers curled around his. Outside, the sun rose over the palace. Word had spread about what the human had done. The court that once mocked him now whispered his name with wonder. The servants who had ignored him now bowed when he passed. But Daniel did not care about any of that. He only cared about the queen sitting beside him, holding his hand, looking at him like he was the most precious thing in the galaxy. They sat together in the morning light, the human and the alien queen. Their fingers intertwined. It was a beginning.